And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest installment of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. A look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I'm executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. With me is my co-host, Erick Simpson, a business improvement and transformation consultant for MSPs and other IT providers. Erick, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, Rich. Happy Friday.
Thanks. Yeah, happy Friday to you too.
So I understand that the weather in our respective parts of the world are a little bit different today. I'm looking at a, upper 70s sunny day outside my window here. How about you?
Good golly, upper 70s, no less. Wow. So I'm here in Seattle this week, and as we speak, it is snowing outside right now. And Seattle is notorious basically for being paralyzed by about 2 inches of snow, and we're expecting something like 4 to 6. So I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time at home this weekend.
I hear you. Well, so let me correct myself. I just checked the current weather. It's actually only 60 degrees here in Southern California. So I was 10 degrees off. So sorry about that.
But it is sunny, and that is probably about 30 degrees warmer than it is here. So not too bad.
Yeah, I might think about wearing a light jacket if I went out. I don't know.
Well, so let's dive into our top story of the week. And from a certain perspective, it's a little bit like our top story of last week. Another big acquisition story. Last time out, it was Barracuda buying the managed workplace RMM solution from Avast Business and signing a resale agreement with Avast to resell the endpoint security products from that company. This week, the big acquisition news is that Carbonite, the BDR vendor, has acquired Webroot, the security vendor. Two big names in the channel, SMB channel. And it's kind of interesting, in the not too distant past, the idea of a BDR vendor like Carbonite buying a security vendor like Webroot would have seemed a little bit odd. What are these two companies doing together? These days, in the age of ransomware, they have a common thread in that they are both data protection technology providers. BDR essentially has become an essential layer in any kind of layered defense against ransomware. And so businesses really need security and BDR in an integrated package. Now, the degree to which this package of technologies becomes integrated is a little bit TBD. I have some coverage of this acquisition up on the ChannelProNetwork.com website right now. I am working this afternoon on some follow-up coverage that'll go up a little bit later today based on some conversations with executives at both those companies. And mostly because the deal has been announced but hasn't closed yet, they're a little bit hesitant, as you would imagine, to talk specifics about what's coming up in the future. So they're not really saying whether or not they're actually going to bundle all their technologies together into one package, sell it for one price, etc. It's kind of logical to think that they will, but we're going to know more a little bit further down the line. And the other thing that will be interesting to see, when I interviewed Carbonite some time back, I brought up the fact to them that there are a lot of other companies out there, like, say, Datto, that are building these end-to-end managed services suites that include BDR functionality. And so I wanted to know what they thought about the future of a standalone BDR kind of company. And what I was told at the time was they are well aware of this trend in the industry and the threat it potentially poses to them, and they are thinking hard about how they are going to integrate with or potentially get into markets like RMM in particular. Again, spoke about that with them this morning, didn't get a lot of specifics for obvious reasons, but I think part of what appealed to Carbonite about Webroot is that Webroot has very strong relationships in the RMM vendor community. And so it'll be interesting to kind of see the degree to which Carbonite is looking to capitalize on those.
And not to mention tens of thousands of end user customers, through the Webroot relationship. So, yeah, you're right, Rich. I mean, maybe 5 years ago or less, you would have kind of scratched your head about, this type of an acquisition. But as you and I, keep covering week over week, not only is the environment really hot for acquisitions, but anything that has to do with security is especially hot, for these organizations that are trying to, stay one step ahead of each other and provide that, complete suite of products and services that can help them either attract new partners or retain the partners that they have. I'm sure that attrition is probably, has a lot to do with some of these decisions as well, to remain competitive and to, please the investors as well.
And you touched on one other interesting aspect of this acquisition as well before. Carbonite has MSPs in its channel, but its channel is a little heavier on VARs. Webroot has some VARs in its channel, but it's way heavier in MSPs, and so there are some synergies for these two companies there as well in terms of combining their strengths in those two different segments of the channel.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised, to see, the evolution that you're forecasting about them creating, more of an end-to-end suite bundle, simple pricing model. You get it all. It makes too much sense. And that's what we've seen other vendors do in the past. And I think that's frankly what today's MSP expects.
Well, they're saying this deal should close in 30 to 45 days or so from now. So I don't think it's going to be a very long wait before we start to see where this is headed. So we will follow up on that as more information becomes available down the road. But for now, let's take a look at your tip of the week, Eric, which has to do with your service desk and how you run it.
Absolutely, Rich. So just, put it in simple terms, running your service desk by the numbers. As I work with partners and we start, peeling back the layers of the onion in their performance in specific key areas of service delivery, the service desk seems to be the one area that has so much potential to deliver, data that, leadership can look at and make strategic decisions and move the needle with. But so often we're not analyzing and leveraging that data properly, or not even setting ourselves up to collect it properly through properly configured PSA solutions and RMM tools and things like that. And then, basically encouraging our technicians and engineers to book all of their time in these systems so that we can accurately identify what our true efficiencies are, what our true costs of service delivery are, what the margins are that we're actually realizing when we're looking at our burdened technicians against the work that they're providing to end user customers. I mean, I see all kinds of opportunities for improvement when we start analyzing this data. For instance, stop having your costliest dragon slaying technicians and engineers closing tier 1 service desk tickets, right? I mean, you'd think that this would be, obvious, but when we're looking at these things and when we're working in fast-paced environments and clients are hammering us, to deliver service as quickly as possible, sometimes, just take care of that client right now, please, is an automatic response. When we have this data in front of us, when we're actually analyzing, time to resolution and SLA, working with, first have an SLA that you're working against. That would help, right? Set the client's expectation that not everything is a priority one. So there's very specific metrics that we should be measuring. There's very specific ways we should be configuring our systems to provide us the reporting and visibility we need to analyze this data. And there's accountability that we have to enforce in making certain that our technicians and engineers are actually booking, a minimum of 8 hours a day of their time in these systems. One of the other strange things that we find, Rich, when we start looking at this and enforcing these things is how much time the organization itself is getting in the way of their technicians being more profitable, i.e. doing lots of internal projects, sitting in a lot of meetings, doing a lot of admin work. And this kind of thing is sometimes more surprising or the most surprising bit of information that we say, wow, let's start cutting back on some of that stuff and get back to billing. Can we?
It's interesting listening to this because it really does get to some absolute fundamentals of running a managed services practice. And some of this is, old hat to people who have been in that trade for a while or are running a mature business. But I know from conversations with newcomers to managed services, this isn't as old hat as it ought to be for everyone who's an MSP. Rule number one is you need good tools. Rule number 2 is you've got to use those tools consistently and make sure that everybody is recording their time, that all of the tickets are getting captured, all of the data is getting recorded in those systems. And then rule number 3, per your tip of the week here, basically, is you have got to use that data to run the business. If you're not using data to run the business, you are guessing or flying blind.
Well said, Rich. Well said.
Well, that leaves us with time for one more story this week, and it concerns 80,000 cans of beers. And no, it is not about my Super Bowl party. This is about an incident that took place in Thailand recently, and actually it comes to us from our Too Much of a Good Thing department, which has checked in with us a few times in recent weeks, involving stories that concern massive amounts of liquid chocolate being spilled into streets overseas somewhere. You'd think it would be impossible to have too much chocolate. You would be wrong if it was covering your entire street. Similar kind of deal with beer. 80,000 beers spilled out of a truck that was carrying this stuff in Thailand recently. And it set off exactly the kind of reaction that you might expect, basically, if all of a sudden there was 80,000 cans of free beer bouncing around on the street. It was a bit of a frenzy. Only 4 people arrested, though, for theft, which I thought was pretty impressive.
So the other 200 got away, I guess.
Yes. Grab one can and run, basically, was the deal. Well, thank you very much. That is all the time we've got this week on the latest Channel Pro 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you very much for joining us on the show here. We are going to be back next week with another episode. Even though my co-host here is going to be on vacation, he is a gamer. He's going to be broadcasting from, Park City, from a ski vacation next week, Eric?
I will be in the snow and broadcasting from thereabouts.
I love it. I love it. So we'll see what the ski conditions are like on the next episode. If you like this show, you'd like to take a look maybe at some older episodes, keep up with the ones that are coming up down the road, you want to go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and subscribe to that. We'll keep you informed about the whole deal. You want to read more about Carbonite buying Webroot, stories like that, want to learn about business growth strategies that you can tap into, go to channelpronetwork.com on a daily basis. We have got great content of all sorts, 100% targeted at people like you going up there on that site every day. You want to learn more about Erick and his business and the stuff that he's doing for his clients, go to www.ericksimpson.com. That's ERICK Simpson.com. Again, that's all the time we've got this week. We're going to talk to you again about a week from now. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. Erick and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.